Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about imperialism. And imperialism happened right after and during the Industrial Revolution. And imperialism is when a strong imperial nation with all sorts of factories went to other countries that were less developed and took over their land. And they would seek to dominate the country they took over. They would basically take control of all the natural resources, all the people, and the economies of that country. And that's going to be imperialism when a stronger nation takes over a weaker country. Here is a great photo, and Cecil Rhodes, the Rhodes Colossus, stretching over the continent of Africa. He has one foot in Cairo, Egypt, and the other foot in Johannesburg, South Africa. And he's holding a telegraph or a communication line showing the power of the British that they're able to take over and dominate the continent of Africa. And you'll notice he's got a lot of symbols of imperialism. He has his rifle, his British imperial helmet, and he's standing over the country, showing that he, the British Empire, has control over most of the continent of Africa, as did many other Europeans, which was decided at the Berlin Conference of 1884. And that was basically when the Europeans set the rules for dividing up Africa. So imperialism in the 1800s, it's basically economic, political, and social forces accelerated the drive to take over land in all parts of the globe. And that was the big thing, taking over land all over the globe. And it's when a country, a stronger nation, would try and take over and dominate a weaker nation. And this happened because of the Industrial Revolutions. All those European countries that industrialized, they knew they had a superior military because they were fighting with rifles and cannons, and they had steam engines and railroads. So they went to these other continents in Asia, Africa, South America, Australia, and they invaded and they turned these countries into colonies. Here's a good political cartoon. You've got England as a devilfish, and England has its hands in Canada, Egypt, Australia, Cairo, all sorts of different places. And that was a good political cartoon you'll see again. Here's a map basically showing in 1800 some of the lands that were taken over. You've got, of course, Russia with all this land over here. Look at all this land Spain has. Portugal had quite a bit of land. The United Kingdom, France even had some colonies, but mostly there wasn't too much land taken in Africa or too much land taken in Asia or India, and that's all going to change by the late 1800s and change during the 1800s with the imperialistic movement. So its economic, political, and social forces accelerated the drive to take over the land in all parts of the globe, and that's imperialism. Now, here's a map of the world showing in 1898 the imperial powers. And notice all this land in Africa is taken over. The blue is the French. The land in pink in Africa is the British. Look at all the land that the British took over in India. And then you can go to China and you can see all the land that was taken over. Australia was taken over. All these island nations were taken over. Madagascar, the French took over. You've got all these European countries that took land. And that's going to be a huge change. So most of the world is going to be colonized by 1898. And that's a huge change. And that's because those European powers were able to go all over the world. And it's basically when you have territory taken over by a stronger country. That's imperialism. This shows basically advantages Europeans had. They had cannons and rifles, and they were fighting people on horsebacks with swords. Here's another picture. Basically, the Europeans would outgun people. And